now listening to Black Coffee, Crime and Crochet, a true crime podcast where cozy meets criminal, hosted by Jasmine C.L. Prince. Grab your yarn, pour up an iced coffee, let's sit through the chaos.
Hey, besties and BC3 crew. Yeah, hey, y'all. Welcome back to Black Coffee, Crime and Crochet, the coziest corner of the internet where we sip something sweet, stitch something soft, and spill some seriously suspicious stories. I am your host, Jasmine, and today we are diving into a saga so unhinged, so audacious, like the audacity had to be on sale. So audacious that it feels like it was ripped straight out of a Shonda Rhimes drama. Like, Shonda Rhimes literally could not have written this any better. Unfortunately, though, this happened in real life. We are talking about the one and only Malachi Love-Robinson, or as he liked to call himself, Dr. Love. No PhD, no MD, just an online degree, some vibes, and a white coat. You heard me. Yeah. Let's get into it. So I know y'all remember him. I know I'm not the only one. I actually wasn't even planning to do this story. I was going to do something else, but when I remembered this, I'm like, yeah, nah, we got to get this going right now. So quick housekeeping before we get into it. Y'all, last week's episode, thank y'all for rocking with me. It dragged a little bit. Listen, I was tired. The girls was doing a lot. My throat was dry, so I made sure I got me some water this time. But I got through it, and y'all listened to it, so I appreciate it. But we are back with the energy. My husband took the girls out, so I'm a little bit more comfortable. So yeah, the vibes are gonna be real high on this one, so I need y'all to stay with me. So before we get started, y'all already know we got our sip and stitch segments. So we are sipping on what I like to call a Fociato. Okay. It is sweet, dramatic, and looks like it looks like it took a lot of work, but really, yeah, it's just iced coffee, milk, and caramel drizzle. All right, that's it. Cause I didn't feel like doing a whole lot, so I just went real simple. Okay, so that's what we have for our drink. I also have some wild cherry and cream Pepsi and my water because, for the ADHD folks, we got to have 3 different drinks at one time. So that's what we got going today to keep me hydrated, to keep me with the caffeine. Like, we got it. All right. And then for my crochet girlies, I am still working on the same crochet sweater, but I promise you, I'm going to be done and we're going to start talking about something else. I'm also figuring out how I can incorporate some patterns for y'all. I think I almost have it how we're going to do it, but that is coming. But that's what I'm working on. All right. So that was real simple, sweet, short, because we got a lot to cover. We really do. So let's just jump right into it. So, the early stages of the early life, I couldn't really find a lot, about Malachi's, early life. There isn't a whole lot, so we're just going to go with what we have. But Malachi was born in May of 1997 in West Palm Beach, Florida. And sadly, he faced significant health challenges. From a very young age, he battled lupus, which, if you don't know, it's a chronic autoimmune disease where the body's immune system attacks its own tissues. I know several people who have lupus. If you're thinking about a celebrity, Tony Braxton battles lupus. So it is not, it's not an easy disease to battle. His grandfather recounted times when Malachi was so ill that he's been quoted saying, "There were a number of times we thought we were going to lose him. He was so sick." So that's hard for anybody to go through, but especially at a young age. But these early health challenges seem to ignite a deep-seated interest in the medical field, which, makes sense. Malachi's grandfather observed that he constantly sought to prove himself, perhaps driven by his personal experiences with illness. Most people would take this experience and say like, hey, I'm going to become a doctor, right? You would think that's a pretty good transition. Yeah. All right. Let's keep going. In 2016, following So, Malachi Love-Robinson's pattern of medical deception began well before the infamous fake doctor headlines. In January 2014, when he was just 16, school police in Palm Beach County investigated a, quote, suspicious incident. Love-Robinson had entered a school district building claiming to be a physician looking for a teaching job. Several high school principals reported a similar teenager visiting their medical training programs trying to pose as an instructor. When confronted by school police, the teen admitted he was not a real doctor and even said he, quote, believes he is a compulsive liar and may have a medical condition, end quote. Y'all heard him say that and didn't look? Okay, never mind. This astonishing admission foreshadowed the bold cons to come. By the following year, Love-Robinson had graduated to infiltrating actual medical facilities. He had graduated to infiltrating actual medical facilities. In January 2015, at age 17, he was found inside an exam room at St. Mary's Medical Center in West Palm Beach wearing a lab coat and stethoscope as a pregnant woman waited for her OBGYN. Now, I've heard that the pregnant woman was a random woman, and I also saw that it was his cousin who said, yeah, you can sit in on my exam. I'm not sure which one. I just want to put that out there that I did see both accounts. In case y'all like, oh, I thought it was something else. I'm putting both of them in there. Staff had seen the teen roaming the hospital for over a month, apparently, quote, shadowing doctors before his luck ran out. There's a quote from Dr. Sebastian Kent that says, this guy can schmooze his way around. He can tell any story you want to hear. Who, again, is Dr. Sebastian Kent, who's an OBGYN who encountered Love-Robinson. Quote, he tried to integrate himself with me. After a while, it started to not make sense, end quote. Y'all mean to tell me this 17-year-old is walking around a hospital, an actual hospital, for a month and nobody said anything? Nobody raised any red flags? People just kind of kept his head down? Like, what? Okay. All right. St. Mary's declined to press charges since no patient was harmed and because the imposter was a minor. Police did not publicly name him. Love-Robinson later claimed it was all a misunderstanding. He quoted saying, I requested to shadow physicians. Next thing I know, cops are there. I have no idea, end quote. He told a reporter, maintaining he, quote, wasn't pretending to be a doctor, end quote. And I think that St. Mary's declined to press charges because how are you going to explain him being there for over a month before he got caught? Like, if I'm a patient there and I find out that he was there for over a month and y'all ain't do nothing, let me have been one of the people that he was trying to come in on. Like, no. And then I heard the only reason, or not I heard, I researched, in my research I saw that one thing that tipped Dr. Kent off is that his lab coat said anesthesiologist or anesthesiology, and he's in the OBGYN department. What does an anesthesiologist have to do with OBGYN? So then after he's arrested, they go out to his car and they see that he has another lab coat that does say OBGYN on it. So I'm like, what? Boy, you can't even keep your lies straight. But again, he's only 17, so it makes sense. But over at St. Mary's now, over a month, really? But let's keep going. So now we're getting into the part of where he's building the Dr. Love persona. Like he is going for it, like really going for it. So after avoiding consequences from the hospital incident, Love-Robinson only became more emboldened. By mid-2015, still only 17 or 18, he had begun fashioning a new identity as a doctor of alternative medicine. He even landed a legitimate job using his false credentials. In or around September 2015, Love-Robinson was hired as the program director at New Directions, which is a drug and alcohol rehabilitation facility in Boynton Beach. To convince the clinic's owner, Dr. Lisa, he wove an elaborate story. Y'all, listen. The stuff that he got away with, I'm like, he wasn't conning kids his age. He was conning grown adults. Listen to this story. He told Dr. Lisa that he was 28 years old, which was a decade older than his true age, and said that he held a PhD in psychology. He told her that he'd been raised in France and had been over there, and there was a clerical error on his U.S. immigration that had put his arrival date as his birth date on records, which explained why his documents indicated he was only 18. And she just believed it. She didn't look into it. She didn't do any type of due diligence. She just said, oh, okay, that's fine. And it would be different if he was an 18-year-old who looked 28. But y'all have seen the infamous picture in that white lab coat. He looked 18. And you just gonna say, oh, okay, girl, and hire him as a program director? Those are hard jobs to get. Like, that's a real legit job. And you didn't do any. I know you had other qualified candidates. I know you did. And you gonna go with him? Like, please make it make sense. Like, I don't understand. This story is crazy. So, incredibly, Love-Robinson backed up his lies with fake paperwork, providing an impressive-looking PhD diploma from Arizona State University and college transcripts, which he later admitted were forgeries. At New Directions, the young man, who now called himself Dr. Love, a nickname playing off his last name, was given surprising authority. Y'all, his salary was about $70,000 a year. I think it was like $68,000. And he, remember, is 18 at the time. He sat in on executive and clinical meetings and even counseled patients struggling with addiction. He even in my research, I saw that he was suggesting when patients' meds needed to be adjusted, like all the things, which is completely dangerous. You're messing with people's meds. Oh my goodness, that is scary. This story is overall funny, but there are some very alarming and scary parts, and this is one of them. Like, you being in charge of adjusting meds is with people struggling with addiction. That's. One client, 28-year-old Brittany Suggs, grew suspicious of the supposed psychologist counseling her weekly. She's quoted saying, "Every time I would ask him how old he is, when he graduated, where he went to medical school, he would beat around the bush," which is a direct quote. And those are legitimate questions to ask. Like, okay, you should be able to answer those, no question. And he just beat around the bush. But still, armed with charisma and confidence, Love-Robinson managed to fool the entire staff for months. His boss is quoted saying, "He fooled all of us." Girl. Behind the scenes, Love-Robinson was already exploiting his new position for personal gain. He secretly used his boss's corporate credit cards and bank accounts to pay his bills, ranging from his cell phone to internet bills to car insurance, and even made a $28,000 down payment on a new Nissan for himself, which I have to admit, because he didn't get anything super expensive. He got a Nissan, which for an 18-year-old, you could pass as having a Nissan. Like, that's a car that a parent would get for an 18-year-old. Like, he didn't get like a Maserati or something like that. So in that regard, he was a little smart. I'll give it to him. But all in all, he allegedly stole over $40,000 from his trusting boss while on her payroll. But it wasn't long before authorities caught wind of the teenage doctor, Lucy said. In September 2015, the Florida Department of Health received an anonymous letter sounding the alarm about Love-Robinson's dubious qualifications. And I saw that this might have been a family member, but I don't believe I saw where it was confirmed who sent it. But I think, if I remember correctly, it was a family member. But the anonymous letter noted he claimed to have, quote, 3 degrees, all by the age of 18, end quote, and implored, quote, please intervene with an exclamation point. State investigators indeed opened a case. By October 2015, the Department of Health officials showed up at Love-Robinson's workplace, which was New Directions, unannounced. Confronted by investigators, he admitted he never attended medical school and was not a licensed doctor, though he perversely insisted he still, quote, considered himself one. Boy! Okay. He explained that his supposed PhD, y'all listen to this, his supposed PhD came from an online church school, and conceded that the diploma and transcripts he'd given his employer from Arizona State University were fake. So this online church school gave him a master's of divinity, and he paid a whopping $30 for that degree, or a piece of paper, I should say. A master of divinity. And y'all who are in the church sector, y'all see people with masters of divinities a lot. That's all I'm gonna say. That day, they wasn't playing. That day, the state issued Love-Robinson a cease and desist order, the first of several, forbidding him from, quote, playing doctor without a license. They also discovered he had been working as a massage therapist without a license at the rehab center. Another violation that prompted a separate cease and desist. Love-Robinson's brief stint as a faux psychologist was over, and New Directions promptly fired him. But incredibly, his most audacious scheme was about to begin. He was preparing to open his own clinic. And we'll get into it, but this is where that famous picture of him in that white lab coat comes into play. So, the fake clinic. Despite the Department of Health's warnings, Malachi Love-Robinson pushed his charade to new heights at the start of 2016. He incorporated, which was bold, he actually incorporated it, a clinic he grandiosely named, y'all listen, please listen to this name, the New Birth, New Life Medical Center and Urgent Care, LLC, which this case is being covered by a lot of other true crime podcasters. And one of them, I have to remember which one it was, but I watched it and listened to it. She said, no, I think both of them said the same point. The New Birth, New Life Medical Center was enough, but you had to tack on urgent care on it too. Again, this is one of those scary parts of the story, because if somebody had typed in urgent care near me and his place came up and they went there and actually needed urgent care, like that could have gone really bad. Like you're going beyond just playing doctor. Like you didn't need to put urgent care on there. You could have just left it New Birth, New Life Medical Center. Which New Birth, New Life, like, is this a birthing center? Like, are you trying to get pregnant women to come there? Like, what kind of name is New Birth, New Life? It literally sounds like a birthing center. But he went as far, I told you I had to get some water because my mouth was getting dry. But he rented out a suite at 4700 North Congress Avenue in West Palm Beach. He decorated an exam room and put his name on the door. The clinic signed advertised services like holistic medicine, urgent care, and family planning. It also displayed an impressive list of degrees, including an MD next to Love-Robinson's name. Now, this is where, okay, so notably when local reporters visited in January 2016, they found the MD on the sign was covered up with tape. Love-Robinson claimed that it was a mistake by the building manager, an assertion contradicted by emails showing he personally approved the sign's design. And the local reporter, she was all over this, okay? I'm trying to... I forgot to put her name. I think it was Terry. I'm gonna play you some of that, but she was all over it. She was the one, or she also was one that got a tip, which is why she started investigating it. But when she got that tip, she did not hesitate. She jumped all over it and went to go visit him. And she visited him a couple of times. And one of the times that she went back was when he had covered up that MD with tape. But all she did was remove the sticker and was like, it says MD on the door. And then that's where he lies and says, oh, that was a mistake. It's been corrected. I didn't tell them to do, just spinning the lies. But yeah. So I'm trying to find her name, but I'm pretty sure it's Terry, but it'll be in the notes. But yeah, I'm sorry. Terry Parker. I'm sorry. I did have it in my notes. I'm getting ahead of this is why you got to keep with your notes, because I'm trying to get ahead of myself and I had it in here the whole time. But anyways, so on the clinic's website and Facebook page, Love-Robinson portrayed himself as a doctor of holistic medicine and a PhD, which we know already that is not the case. He even had a white lab coat embroidered with his name and the title Doctor, ready to receive patients. By this point, like I said, the local media had taken a strong interest in the mysterious teen doctor setting up shop. Investigative reporter Terry Parker of WPBF TV had received a tip in early January 2016 that the, quote, previously unidentified teen from the 2015 hospital incident was the same person now advertising medical services. So Parker, being the amazing investigative reporter that she is, and her news team began digging. They covertly visited Love-Robinson's new clinic and observed his front office setup. Red flags were everywhere. In addition to the taped over MD and the clinic's brochures and online posts were leading the public to believe he was a licensed physician, which he was not. WPBF also learned that Love-Robinson had started an LLC and was apparently treating real patients. Sensing a potential public safety issue, the station alerted authorities and coordinated with them as they prepared to catch Dr. Love in the act. So, on February 4th, 2016, after confirming that Love-Robinson was seeing patients, members of the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office and the Department of Health conducted an undercover sting at the New Birth, New Life clinic. And this is where this part falls apart. An undercover female agent posed as a patient seeking an exam. Sure enough, Love-Robinson, clad in his lab coat, led her into an exam room. He proceeded to take her temperature and blood pressure and even used a stethoscope to listen to her lungs, which was a basic physical. He then confidently assured her she was not sick and offered medical advice for her complaints. The trap was sprung. Moments later, sheriff's deputies and DOH officials entered the room and arrested Love-Robinson on the spot. And like I said, at this point, Terry and her crew were there, so they actually got this on camera. He was charged with practicing medicine without a license, which is a third-degree felony in Florida.
We asked to talk to him. Love-Robinson was surprised to see us in his waiting room, but agreed to an interview. The first thing Love-Robinson did was to slowly remove his stethoscope and lab coat, an ensemble that numerous witnesses tell me he wears everywhere. The same type of getup he wore at St. Mary's. And he wasn't surprised that we had questions. You've got a lot of sites online, all claiming that you're a doctor.
Well, no, they don't claim medical doctor, as I am aware of. If you could stop recording, please, I will like that.
Love-Robinson a few minutes later said we could start recording again, and he asked us to come back for a second interview, which we did.
This is the new Birthing Life Medical Center. Brand new. We've just got everything done and ready and started.
State records show the 18-year-old licensed his business with the state. His business partner says he also got his clinic approved to take Medicaid and insurance payments. And Love-Robinson even has his own federal national provider number.
So, I look at people who ask me, how can you be fooled? How can the state of Florida be fooled? How can St. Mary's be fooled? This is no average 18-year-old.
Since his arrest, the sheriff's office has added charges of grand theft and forgery, claiming Love-Robinson stole an 86-year-old patient's checkbook from her Breakers West home and forged checks to clean out her bank account. But he maintains he is innocent and will be cleared. How do you feel now to all the people that, believed in you, that thought, you knew what you're talking about?
I'm hurt because of the accusations and the allegations, but like I said, this is not the first time where I've been accused, and I will pursue this, and when I do, you guys will know. You'll be the first to know, Ms. Parker.
Okay, so we have to get into that clip because it mentions how he has several websites, or he had several websites up of him claiming to be a doctor, right? So on his website, he advertised several services that he clearly was not qualified for. Okay, so some of the specialties he had were chronic fatigue treatment, detoxification, ADHD, neuropathy, acupuncture, stuff like that, right? And then in the about section, and this is the section that most the other podcasters that I saw cover this case, they all point this out, and I agree with them. It is funny because in his about section, he claimed to be, quote, a well-rounded professional, end quote. But what was so funny about this is that he misspelled professional. Like, sir. Okay. All right. But he also said that he treats and cares for patients using a system of practice that bases treatment of psychological functions and abnormal conditions on natural laws governing the human body. I don't even know, what does that, what does that even mean? Okay, but he also claimed to utilize psychological, sociological, and mechanical methods such as air, water, light, heat, earth, photo, food, and herb therapy, as well as psychotherapy, electrotherapy, physiotherapy, minor and artificial surgery, neuropathic corrections, and manipulations. Somebody, if you're a doctor, please tell me if any of that makes sense, because I have no idea what he's talking about. And if I was somebody looking for a doctor and I saw all of that, I don't know if that would make me be like, oh, he knows what he's talking about, or if that would confuse me so much that I would look for somebody else. I'm not sure. But he really sold it. He went for it. He didn't have to do this. He went all in. He also says that he shadowed several physicians and OBGYNs and became certified as a holistic health practitioner, became board certified as an alternative medical practitioner, and became certified as a surgical technologist. But the state of Florida hadn't even they don't even issue licenses for neuropathic doctors anymore. And they haven't for, I listened to Kendall Ray's YouTube about this, and I think she mentioned that the state of Florida hadn't issued that type of license in 30 years. So if you're going to lie, like, make sure it makes sense. Because, okay. It's just, okay. And then we're going to get into the part about where he got arrested for stealing from a patient too. But let's finish this section because I'm getting ahead of myself. So at this point, he's arrested from the other undercover sting operation, and like I said, that is a 3rd-degree felony in Florida. So 18-year-old Malachi Love-Robinson's booking photo after his February 2016. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Let me backtrack. With this clinic, he hired 2 employees and hired a photographer to set up this whole shoot. And that's where we see this, like I said, the famous headshot picture of him. So he hired these 2 women. One was like an office coordinator, I think, and I forget what the other one was, but he hired 2, again, adult employees, and we heard from his business partner too. None of y'all, and he tries to throw off and say, "Oh, how did he scam me? How did he scam the state of Florida?" The state of Florida didn't see him face to face. They probably didn't see his picture. You stood in front of him and saw him. So I'm kind of looking at you more so of how did you get scammed more so than the state of Florida, because like I said, you saw him. You could see that boy was not old enough to be who he was claiming to be. But okay, let me get back to my notes. Okay. 18-year-old Malachi Love-Robinson's booking photo after his February 2016 arrest. He was charged with impersonating a physician and practicing medicine without a license. The teen had opened a clinic called New Birth New Life Medical Center in West Palm Beach and was caught in an undercover sting after examining a patient. As officers let him out in handcuffs, Love-Robinson maintained an air of wounded dignity, saying, quote, "I'm hurt because of all these allegations," end quote, which you saw on the clip, denying any wrongdoing. He says, quote, "This is not the first time I have been accused, and I will pursue this. When you do, you will be the first to know," end quote, he told reporter Terry Parker in a somewhat cryptic statement. Because what does that even mean? I will pursue this, and when I do, you'll be the first to know? Like, okay. The young teen man who had dreamed of being seen as a doctor was now infamous as the fake teen doctor. And like I said, this story blew up. It absolutely blew up. His story, an 18-year-old opening a medical clinic, made headlines worldwide, and the nickname Dr. Love spread in the press. And now we're going to get into the elderly patient, which again is another scary part to this story. So in the wake of Love-Robinson's clinic arrest, investigators uncovered a disturbing case of fraud that predated the February sting. An 86-year-old woman named Anita Morrison had come forward with serious allegations. Just weeks before his arrest, Morrison had encountered an ad online for Love-Robinson's home health services and, suffering from stomach pain, invited the self-proclaimed doctor to her home in the upscale Breakers West community. Love-Robinson claimed to be a neuropathic physician and began making house calls to treat the elderly woman in January 2016. And if you're 86 and you see a doctor who's still making house calls, of course you're going to jump at that, because she had a home health aide too. She's not trying to go outside. She's 86. So this was right up her alley. So, excuse me, Morrison later recounted that the teenage doctor appeared very knowledgeable and personable. She is quoted saying, "I thought I trusted him. He was very personable," end quote. She said, quote, "I didn't suspect he was a fraud, but then I noticed things were not right," end quote. Dressed in his lab coat that y'all see he's seen in everywhere, with a stethoscope in tow, Love-Robinson visited Morrison multiple times. He performed physical exams on her, such as checking her vitals, and even sold her expensive vitamins and supplements, ringing up thousands of dollars in charges. And when I say vitamins and supplements, it was regular stuff that you can get over the counter. Like, I'm trying to remember. And again, she reached out to him because she was having stomach pains. So the regular vitamins that okay, I can't find it, but it was regular stuff that she could have gotten over the counter, and he was charging her a lot of money for it. Which, like, you're already scamming the elderly woman, but now you're just taking serious advantage of her. Which I'm just like, come on, you have to have some type of okay. Anyways, so so he was released on bond, $21,000 bond. Okay, but Anita is saying that so Anita's bringing up these charges against her. Okay, so notably, investigators later found he would raise the price of each house call as time went on. Morrison trusted the young man's directives at first. He recommended she undergo medical tests like a colonoscopy and an ultrasound, which she did with other providers. But even those other providers was like, why are you trying to get these procedures? You don't need them. So this is where his overreach finally just made her be like, nah. So Love-Robinson offered to administer a pap smear to the 86-year-old woman himself. Like, he wasn't sending her somewhere else. He was going to do it. She says, quote, he spoke about it and I was really concerned, end quote, which I'm so glad she is. She flatly refused his offer, telling her caregiver afterwards, quote, I'm not going to let him do that, end quote, which I'm so glad because ain't no telling what he would have messed up trying to do a pap smear. Unfortunately, soon after, Morrison noticed money disappearing from her bank account. So again, y'all remember I said that she contacted him in the first place because she was having stomach pains. This man tried to diagnose her with arthritis, and that's where he overcharged her for the very basic vitamins. He said, oh, you just have arthritis, and here's these really expensive vitamins, and you'll be fine. But then her pain got worse, and she's really concerned, so she calls him back like, hey, I need you to come right now. It's, I'm not feeling well. So he gets there, and thankfully, this time he's like, oh, there's nothing I can do. I'll call you an ambulance. So he did have enough sense to do that. So he calls her an ambulance, and the ambulance takes her away, and he says, oh, you handle that. I'll lock up for you. Which she's thinking like, oh, that's such a nice thing for him to do. However, while he's there locking up for her, he steals checks from her and her banking account information. So she afterwards discovers that several checks have been stolen from her checkbook. Investigators say Love-Robinson took and forged at least 3 of her checks, withdrawing funds to pay off that Nissan that he stole the $28,000 from his boss for. He paid off that Nissan and personal credit card bills. In addition, like I said, while he was there, he obtained her bank account and routing numbers, which enabled him to make electronic payments for his expenses directly from her account. And when she went and sat down with it, she told she had figured out that after it had been all said and done, he took approximately, and this makes me really sad. When you mess with elderly people, I'm so glad elder abuse is a thing, but when it was all said and done, he had stolen approximately $34,000 from Morrison. Not $3,400, $34,000. Effectively bleeding the elderly widow's finances for his own benefit. How can you do that and sleep at night? I just don't understand. So when Anita Morrison realized what had happened, she was alarmed and, of course, heartbroken because she trusted him. But she's quoted saying, he forged my signature and he took funds out of my bank account, end quote. She said, quote, I don't know what they'll do with him, but he deserves some type of punishment, end quote, which it does, okay, punish him. And prosecutors agreed. So on February 16th, 2016, just 12 days after the clinic bust, authorities, because he was out on bail, like I said, he had a $21,000 bail, and he's out on bail, and then they go rearrest him a second time, now charging him with multiple counts of grand theft, forgery, and fraud relating to the exploitation of Morrison. He had been out on bail from a clinic arrest, but found himself right back in, as he should. According to a probable cause affidavit, Love-Robinson had, quote, criminally used Anita Morrison's checking account data to make $34,504 in payments towards his auto loans and credit card accounts. So they got the actual amount, $34,504. The revelation of this vulnerable victim gave a much darker cast to the Dr. Love saga. What has seemed almost comedic, a teen doctor, now had the unmistakable crime victim. Facing mounting charges, Love-Robinson was soon released on bond again, which I don't see how they keep giving this boy bond. But he posted $21,000 bail by the early hours of February 17th. But his response was not remorse. It was brazenness. In fact, that very evening, February 17th, 2016, Malachi Love-Robinson held a press conference of his own. Like, boy, please be so for real. Like, he legitimately held a press conference. Like, here's the press conference. Here's what he says.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I would just like to simply say that on behalf of myself and my family, we thank you for the concerns in the community about the accusations that have happened. I just want to say that I am deeply saddened and a little disrespected by some of the things that have come forth. But I will say that my attorneys are working hard. They're working around the clock to make sure that this issue gets resolved in the best way possible. I would just simply ask that you please allow the attorneys to do their job. You respect the privacy, you respect my privacy and my family's privacy, and just please allow us to deal with this issue the way any normal family would. And I would simply ask that if you could please pray for us in this time, that everything that has happened, that we get the truth out of it. And not only the truth, but we can shed some good light on some of the things that are happening in the community today. That we can shed a good light on some of the positive things that are happening, and stop worrying about bashing someone and start lifting them up. Once again, I want to thank everyone for their support, whether it was good or bad. I've had some great supporters, and I've had some people who have said some negative things. But everyone is entitled to their opinion. And once again, I am not upset. And I respect the community for the concerns that they have. But once again, just please respect our wishes and allow our attorneys to do the best that they can to work on this case. Thank you so very much, and have a great night.
So that press conference is actually a little bit longer. The reporters try to ask him questions, but he says, at this time I'm not answering any questions or anything like that. But boy, please be so for real. Because he says, let us handle this like any normal family would. Normal families wouldn't be in the situation. That's the first thing. Second thing is, what else did he say? The truth will come out. It already did. You've already been arrested. The proof is already there. The truth is already out. So I don't understand what truth he's trying to talk about. And then he's talking about, allow my lawyers to do their job. What lawyers? Because I think if you had lawyers, they would have been standing there with you in this, but they were not. So what lawyers are you talking about? What? I don't understand. At one point, he fires his lawyer and asks the judge for, I think, 30 days to hire a new one. She's like, you got 3. Okay. I'm not fooling with you no more. I'm not giving you 30 days. You get 3, and that's it. She was fed up with his shenanigans, as she should. So this story is crazy. So this is getting long, so I need to hurry up. But so with this story going viral, Love-Robinson seemed determined to spin the narrative. On the night of February 17th, mere hours after getting out of jail, the teen convened, like I said, with a press conference at his clinic, which was now shut down by authorities. The fact that you gave the press conference outside your clinic is crazy. Like, crazy work. But all right. Flanked by family members, including his mother and grandfather, which I think were off to the side, he addressed a scrum of reporters. He spoke in vague terms about the allegations, insisting that his intentions were pure. According to those present, he dodged specifics about his credentials and actions, citing advice from his attorney, but maintaining that the truth would eventually come out in his favor. Love-Robinson's grandfather, William McKenzie, even spoke up in his defense, saying, quote, he may have done something wrong, but he had good intentions of trying to help people, end quote. The grandfather told CBS 12 News. Which, okay, I know you the granddaddy, all right? But when he wrong, all right, granddaddy, just say he made a mistake or he I don't know. Just admit that, take some accountability. And maybe that's where he learned to not take accountability, because y'all make excuses for him. But okay, so it gets even funnier, because the very next morning, February 18, 2016, Love-Robinson took his media campaign to the national stage. ABC's Good Morning America. And I don't know how he thought this was going to go well. I don't know. But in a live interview via satellite, ABC correspondent Matt Gutman pressed the 18-year-old on his qualifications. Love-Robinson offered rehearsed talking points. Quote, I'm not portraying as an MD, I'm a holistic practitioner, end quote, etc. But grew visibly irritated at the skeptical questioning. When Gutman inquired about the specifics of his education, noting the fake diploma he gave to his former employer, Love-Robinson abruptly cut the interview short. He removed his earpiece and microphone and walked off the set. The Good Morning America hosts back in New York were stunned. The incident made yet more headlines. Dr. Love walks out on live interview, end quote. It seemed Love-Robinson hoped media exposure would vindicate him, but instead it only added to his notoriety. Which, how did you think that was gonna go? Like, what did you think was going to happen? Because obviously you just didn't plan this well. But here is some of that Good Morning America interview.
Marched out of his Florida clinic in handcuffs.
Malachi, they say you've been practicing medicine without a license?
Sitting down with ABC News overnight, released from jail early Wednesday morning on a $21,000 bail after being busted in a sting operation in West Palm Beach, caught allegedly giving a medical exam to an undercover officer. Are you a doctor of anything? Anything at all?
I do currently hold a PhD in what I don't feel comfortable disclosing because that is not the issue here.
But you treat people at your office.
Face now is accusations.
The 18-year-old indeed facing serious accusations from police, 7, including grand theft, and allegedly practicing medicine without a license. And last month, he proudly showed off his medical center to our affiliate, WPFB.
This is the New Birthing Life Medical Center.
But peel back the tape, and the sign on the door has his name and these 2 crucial letters, MD.
That sign on the door was actually due to be changed. There are many types of degrees out there that hold the title as doctor, whether they are a physicist or an engineer. Just because someone has the title doctor in front of their name does not necessarily imply MD.
Have you had training?
I have shadowed many doctors.
You're saying your training comprises shadowing other doctors, real doctors. That's your training in medicine.
Your training comprises of a lot of things.
But you weren't in med school.
Exactly. So I am not portraying as an MD. I've never said that I've gone to school to be a MD.
But the teen who goes by Dr. Love does advertise an array of treatments on his medical center website, including phototherapy, food and air therapy, and naturopathy.
I have been studying this particular field for a while. May not have been 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, but it has been long enough to, I would say, justify what I do.
Including apparently treating the elderly. In a criminal complaint, an 86-year-old woman said he recently treated her for severe stomach pain, paying him nearly $3,500. What services did you provide in exchange for that money?
I can tell you this. accusations are merely accusations. And services, you'd have to define that. Whether she paid for me to just show up, that's up to her.
You're not denying the fact that she paid you $3,500 or so, correct?
No, I am denying that.
Are you a fraud? Because it seems like everything you're saying to me is either evasive or an outright lie.
I don't appreciate your tone. I don't appreciate the way you're portraying this interview to actually be.
And then a moment we didn't expect. Are you in big trouble? I mean, it seems like you've spoken to a lawyer who's prepared you to talk not only to the media, but the police as well.
I don't know where you're receiving this information from, but it is inaccurate. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut this interview short. I'm going to have to cut this interview short.
And in fact, he did, walking out the door.
I honestly don't know what he expected. Okay. Anyway, so let's get back to some more fraud. So remember that position he had where he was making almost $80,000? Yeah, let's get back to that. So even as Love-Robinson's Florida legal cases proceeded, another victim of his deceit was coming to light. Dr. Lisa, the psychologist who had hired him at New Directions Rehab, was piecing together what happened to her finances during the few months Dr. Love worked for her. By mid-2016, Dr. Lisa discovered the unauthorized transactions on her account, the phone bills, utility payments, and especially the $28,000 paid to a car dealership, all traced back to Dr. Love's tenure as her program director. And then also he paid for that fake diploma. Yeah, he paid for that on her card too. Let's just make sure I let y'all know that. So in June 2016, she confronted the teen, who was at the time out on bail pending trial. Love-Robinson attempted to repay her with a personal check for $5,877, perhaps hoping to appease his former boss. But that check bounced. Are we surprised? No, due to insufficient funds. That was the final straw. She went to the police and a detailed fraud investigation began. Detectives in Boynton Beach built a case showing how Love-Robinson had embezzled over $42,000 via her accounts. In September 2016, prosecutors formally stacked on new charges against Love-Robinson for his scheme, alleging that, quote, he'd stolen another $40,000 from a psychologist who employed the teen as her program director, end quote. The charges included grand theft and identity fraud for his misuse of her banking information. It became clear that while Dr. Love was posing for the rehab's website in a white coat and counseling patients, he was simultaneously draining his employer's bank account. Quote, he was sloppy and he got caught, end quote, she said of her former employee's scheme. The psychologist also uncovered a clue to how her young hire had forged his academic documents, which is what I said, a charge on her credit card for, get this, y'all, next day diplomas, an online fake diploma service likely used to purchase the counterfeit PhD he showed her. By the fall of 2016, Malachi Love-Robinson was facing a staggering array of criminal charges in Florida, ranging from practicing medicine without a license to grand theft and forgery for defrauding Anita Morrison to additional grand theft and fraud counts for robbing Dr. Lisa. His legal troubles, however, were not confined to Florida. Out on bail, which again, I don't know why they kept giving him bail, but out on bail yet again that fall, Love-Robinson couldn't resist one more con. One that will ensnare him in another state. Y'all, this man, because now he's 19. This man, in September 2016, turned up in Stafford, Virginia with an eye on a new prize. He done upgraded, y'all, from that Nissan to now he wanted a luxury car. Despite his pending charges, he traveled to Virginia, where he had family, and attempted to pull off a fraudulent car purchase. According to the Stafford County Sheriff's Office, on September 9th, Love-Robinson walked into Kager Motors car dealership, accompanied by an elderly woman who he claimed was his relative and willing co-signer. He had inquired online about buying a $35,000 Jaguar and came in to finalize the deal. Playing the role of a successful young professional, Love-Robinson told the dealership employees that he was a 19-year-old doctor earning $120,000 a year. This bold claim immediately raised suspicion. William Park, the finance manager, later said it set off a, quote, red flag. The salary was awfully high for someone so young. Park recalled a news story he'd seen earlier that year about a teen in Florida posing as a doctor. A quick online search of the customer's unusual name confirmed his hunch. Malachi Love-Robinson was the Dr. Love kid from the news. While Park quietly phoned the police, Love-Robinson went through the motions of the sale. The Jaguar he wanted had already been sold, so a salesman showed him a 2013 Lexus as an alternative. Love-Robinson agreed and began filling out paperwork. The elderly woman with him, reportedly his great aunt, was meant to co-sign the auto loan. However, when deputies arrived and intervened, the truth emerged. The woman had no idea she had been listed as a co-signer and did not consent to be part of the purchase. She also discovered 2 iPads had recently been charged to her credit card without her knowledge, expenses likely made by, you guessed it, Love-Robinson. In other words, he was attempting to buy the car using fraudulent credit and his aunt's stolen personal information. Sheriff deputies arrested Love-Robinson at the dealership that evening, thwarting the scheme before it could fully materialize. Virginia authorities charged him with identity theft, false statements to obtain credit, and obtaining money by false pretenses, which are felonies under Virginia law. He was held without bond. Okay, Virginia got it right. They held him without bond at the regional jail. I cannot pronounce that, and I don't want to butcher it. So, the Florida teen doctor's interstate escapade landed him in an even deeper legal trouble. News of the arrest made national headlines once again. It was official. Malachi, Dr. Love-Robinson had been caught mid-scam attempting to buy a Jaguar with a stolen identity while out on bail for impersonating a doctor. For many, this was the final straw that Love-Robinson's con man tendencies knew no bounds. But they knew no bounds when he scammed Anita. But anyways, even Love-Robinson's own attorney in Florida was stunned by the Virginia arrest. Having contemplated an insanity defense for his client back in Palm Beach, the lawyer now saw his client behind bars in another state. Ultimately, any insanity or incompetency claims were short-lived. The case would proceed in a more routine fashion, albeit with 2 jurisdictions involved. So let's get to the courtroom stuff. So facing an overwhelming slate of charges in 2 states, Malachi Love-Robinson eventually chose to plead guilty, as he should, rather than face trial. In March 2017, while still in custody in Virginia, he struck a deal and pleaded guilty to the fraud charges from the Jaguar incident. A Virginia judge later sentenced him to 1 year in jail with a significant additional term suspended, contingent on good behavior. With credit for time served awaiting trial, Love-Robinson served roughly 1 year in a Virginia facility. Meanwhile, in Florida, his case slogged on into 2018 as lawyers negotiated a plea. In March 2018, 2 years after his initial arrest, Love-Robinson pleaded guilty, as he should, in Palm Beach County to multiple felonies, including practicing medicine without a license, grand theft, and organized scheme to defraud. In total, he pleaded to 6 charges encompassing the clinic charade, the clinic charade, and the thefts from Anita Morrison and his ex-employer. In return, he received a relatively lenient sentence, only 3.5 years in state prison. He got a year in Virginia, but only 3.5 in Florida. Okay. Plus restitution and probation. After his sentencing, some of his victims or their families had a chance to speak. Anita Morrison's family, for instance, emphasized the violation of trust and the trauma he had caused. Absolutely. Combined with the Virginia time, Love-Robinson's incarceration effectively ran from 2017 until September 2019, when he was released from Florida prison at age 22. Under the plea arrangement, he was also required to repay his victims over $80,000 combined, about 34 to Morrison and 42 to his old boss, and additional court costs, and will be on probation for several years. Walking out of prison in 2019, Malachi Love-Robinson has served his time for the Dr. Love saga. So, you would think that the story would end there, right? A chastened young man moving on from his infamous teenage crimes. Because, like I said, at this point, he's 22. But in Malachi's case, trouble was never far behind. Let's get into a new scam and how Dr. Love returns to prison. So, for a couple years, we'll give him some credit, Love-Robinson stayed relatively under the radar. He was in his early 20s, presumably trying to rebuild his life. He got married and even became a father, according to some reports. So whether or not that's true or not, I'm not sure. But by 2020, he found legitimate employment as a salesman at a shipping and freight company, which salesman, I would give that because you're good at lying. I'm not saying that all salespeople lie, but it's a good quality to have. But he was a salesman at a shipping and freight company in Delray Beach, Florida. Perhaps unsurprisingly, it didn't take long for Malachi to revert to old habits. In his new job, he was responsible for connecting shippers with trucking companies, essentially brokering freight transport. Prosecutors later revealed that in spring 2020, Love-Robinson devised a way to divert customer payments to himself. When clients sent money for shipping services, he instructed them to wire funds into bank accounts he controlled instead of the company's accounts. Which, y'all, how are y'all doing this? You wouldn't call somebody and say, hey, is this accurate? That wouldn't give you any type of, y'all ain't got no spidey senses or nothing. You've been paying a certain way all this time, and all of a sudden he's like, oh yeah, don't pay that way. Send the money here. And you just gonna do it? Okay. He effectively stole sales commissions and payments that belonged to his employer, United States of Freight. Over a span of weeks, Love-Robinson siphoned over $10,000 through this fraud, while his employer gradually grew suspicious of missing payments. So you had a chance to be legit. You got a great job. You've been out. You're 22 now, and you're just going to go back to scamming. You were even lucky to get this job in the first place. And you just gonna do the same thing? Like, I just don't, just go ahead and sit in there for a long time. Clearly, you need some time to think, or you're just never gonna change. I don't know, but all right. So, in March 2020, the owner of the freight company uncovered the scheme and reported it to authorities. Because Love-Robinson was still on probation from his prior conviction, the new criminal investigation escalated quickly. On December 31st, New Year's Eve, 2020, as the year ended, Love-Robinson, age 23, was arrested yet again in Palm Beach County on charges of fraud and grand theft. He rang in the new year in jail, though he was able to post a modest $2,000 bond and be released the same day. Why y'all keep giving him bond? He was out on probation, did the same thing, and you gave him bond again and only $2,000? Like, I don't understand. I cannot comprehend how this is possible. This is why the story is so insane. Because he kept getting chance after chance. Y'all kept giving him bond after bond. Like, at what point do y'all just say, nah, just sit there? Like, okay. This time, there would be no drawn-out saga. Facing clear evidence and a probation violation, which you should not have gotten out on bond for anyways, Love-Robinson accepted responsibility. In late 2020, he pleaded guilty to charges of grand theft and organized scheme to defraud for the freight company scam. A Palm Beach County judge sentenced him in January 2023 to 28 months in prison, followed by 2 years of probation. He was ordered to pay over $10,000 in restitution to his former employer. Now 25 years old, the serial con man was headed back behind bars, this time with perhaps fewer headlines, but a lengthy criminal record firmly attached to his name. Whew. Malachi Love-Robinson's story is a remarkable tale of youthful audacity, deception, and the craving for respect or notoriety. From the time he was a teenager, he displayed the talent for gaining people's trust with sheer confidence and charisma. You can tell any story you want to hear, quote, as one doctor observed early on. Or he can tell you any story you want to hear. I said that wrong. Indeed, Love-Robinson told many stories that he was an accomplished doctor, a PhD, a wealthy physician, and for a while, people believed him. His string of offenses between 2014 and 2016 show a progression of boldness. From sneaking into hospitals and schools in a lab coat, he graduated to running a clinic and treating patients, and eventually to outright financial crimes and fraud on a grand scale. It's a true crime saga that captured public attention, not just for crimes, but because of the almost absurd circumstances. A teenager playing doctor in real life, duping real adults, and even the media and the state. The public and media response was intense. The Dr. Love nickname became synonymous with the case, splashed in headlines across the country, and the infamous headshot. There was a mix of astonishment and outrage. Astonishment that someone so young could get away with it, and outrage at the harm he caused to vulnerable victims like Anita. Psychologists and commentators weighed in, trying to understand what drove Love-Robinson. Was this a pathological need to be seen as important, a compulsion to lie, as he himself once suggested, or simply greed? Or it could be all of them. Even after serving time, Love-Robinson struggled to stay on the straight path, as shown by his 2020 relapse into fraud. His pattern of deception, whether impersonating a doctor or embezzling from an employer, suggests a deeply ingrained behavior. As one observer noted, quote, "It is fascinating that humans are able to trick other humans. We love to hear about that," end quote. In the court of public opinion, Malachi Dr. Love-Robinson has become a notorious example of a serial con artist, remarkable chiefly for how brazen and bizarre his lies were. For now, Love-Robinson sits in a Florida prison once again, paying the price for his schemes. It remains to be seen whether this now older Dr. Love will finally retire his white coat of deception. His story served as a cautionary tale about trust, reminding us that sometimes truth really is stranger than fiction, and that a convincing smile and a made-up title can fool even the best of us, at least for a time. Malachi Love-Robinson's criminal journey from fake prodigy to convicted felon is one that will be studied and remembered in true crime circles for years to come. Briefly, because we're getting far into this, but briefly, in 2016, following his arrest for impersonating a doctor, a judge did order Malachi to undergo a mental health evaluation. But later that year, his legal team considered an insanity defense, highlighting the complexities surrounding his mental health. But we see that that was very short-lived. While specific details of these evaluations remain confidential, they underscore the intricate interplay between Malachi's health history and his actions. All right, y'all. So real quick, let's talk about it. The public couldn't stop watching the story because it had everything. It had ambition, it had deception, a ridiculous alias, and the most confident scammer energy we've ever seen. There's also a deeper level here about how much society really trusts appearances. Malachi looked the part, which some people said, but really, y'all, he looked like a kid. He did sound the part. He did speak with medical jargon. He was charismatic, so people believed him. His grandfather says Malachi was trying to help people. He said his grandson just wanted to prove he was someone important. Mental health assessments were ordered, and insanity defense was considered, but ultimately a judge ruled that Malachi knew exactly what he was doing, which he did. So let's get into the sip or spill segment. Take a sip if you think Malachi was a misguided, brilliant kid with trauma, just trying to matter, or a spill if you're like, nah, he knew what he was doing and he just liked the power, the money, and the performance. Tag me at Black Coffee Crime Crochet on Instagram or TikTok and let me know your take, right? And then lastly, post-crime crochet chat. The lesson this week, just because something looks legit, even though this didn't really look legit, doesn't mean it is. Whether it's a doctor, a website, or a vibe, always check the credentials. And also, never co-sign anything you didn't sign in person, period. So, now, we are very quickly going to read a review and a comment. Should have had this up already, because this episode, I think, is the longest one yet. But I think it was good. Hopefully y'all like it. But yeah, so okay, here we go. With a review. Hopefully I don't read the same one I read last week. Okay, so this is a 5-star rating. Thank you. It says, I love juicy, in capital words, true crime. I'm the newest member of the BC3 crew, and let me just say I am hooked. If you love juicy true crime that keeps you guessing and gasping, this podcast is it. The storytelling, the commentary, the twist I never see coming. It's everything I crave in true crime and more. It feels like I'm hanging with the friends who get just as deep in drama as I do. So glad I found y'all. 5 stars isn't enough. From Jessica W. Thank you, Jessica. And I actually know her. Thank you, girl. I really, really, really appreciate it. Like, for real. And like I said, hopefully, I need to keep track of which ones I read. Hopefully I didn't read that one last week. And then a comment we're going to read. Let's find a comment on, these are coming from Spotify. Let's see. Oh, you know what? Okay, this is perfect. So this one is from our first episode on Ashley Grayson. And this one is from Kelsey. Loved episode 1. Can't wait for more. So Kelsey is a bestie of mine, not in real life, but me and her were besties. And Emily too. They have a podcast called A Trial by Podcast. Be sure to go and listen to them. I don't remember how I heard about them. I think it was suggested from another podcast, but I started listening and loved it. And then I just randomly one day DM'd Kelsey, and we just kind of been going back and forth. And now we're like friends. And, you know, in my head, like we're real friends. So the fact that she commented, I appreciate. She's been so helpful with me with getting my podcast off the ground. She's been answering questions because their podcast is huge. You know, hopefully someday, you know, that's somewhere where this one will be. But their podcast has 4.9 rating and a whole bunch of followers. I was trying to find exactly how many followers they have, but I can't find it. But anyways, they're a big podcast. So for her to take the time out to help me as a newer one, I very much appreciate it. So shout out to Kelsey. Thank you. I appreciate you and Emily. So lastly, before we get out of here, Patreon. I have officially launched Patreon. There are 3 different levels you can sign up for. $2, $5, $8 a month. And so I do have my first Patreon person. So patron, shout out Brittany. Thank you for being a patron. I really appreciate it. So you can join Patreon from my website or actually patreon.com. It'll be attached in the show notes or the show description too. But you will get shouted out like Brittany did. So this episode has been long enough as it is. So thank you for sipping and stitching with me. If you like this episode, please leave a review, share it in your group chat, share it on social media, do all the things, and stay tuned for next week's deep dive. Until next time, stay warm, stay caffeinated, and stay skeptical. Bye.
Disclaimer. Great effort is made to ensure that all materials used in Black Coffee Crime and Crochet adhere to fair use guidelines. No copyright infringement is intended. If you are the copyright owner or represent the owner of any material used in this content and have concerns about its use, please contact me and I will promptly address the issue.